Let's talk about the highs, the lows, the fantasy chaos, and what comes next. About who, you ask? The 2025 Los Angeles Chargers. They entered the season with renewed energy under Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, and Jesse Minter, all in their second season together, and it showed early. The 2025 LA Chargers didn't just start the season, they erupted into it. A 3-0 opening burst, a win over those big bully, the Kansas City Chiefs, and a defense that looked ready to bully the AFC themselves. Every rise can experience turbulence. Mid-season brought stalled drives, turnovers, and an offense searching for identity. The kind of thing fantasy owners don't want to hear or see. The Chargers fought, clawed, and recalibrated, finishing 11-6, earning a wildcard berth. Then came the ending, a 16-3 loss to the New England Patriots in the playoffs. A game that mirrored their season, tough, gritty, competitive, but missing that final spark. Week 1 was electric. Keenan Allen, McConkey, and Quentin Johnston each opened the season with 65-plus yards and a touchdown. A statement performance that told fantasy managers you drafted the right guys. Justin Herbert's 2025 season didn't happen in a vacuum. It was a response to what he endured the year before. And when you stack the two seasons side by side, the story becomes even clearer. Herbert elevated his game while the offense around him struggled to keep pace. Compared to 2024, Herbert's efficiency took a noticeable step back. His passer rating dropped from 101.7 to 94.1. His yards per attempt dipped, and his interceptions quadrupled, jumping from just 3 last season to 13 in 2025. It was the clearest sign that the scheme around him stalled, while the pressure on him skyrocketed. It starts with Justin Herbert, the power supply of the Chargers, the calm in the chaos, the stabilizer when the offense sputtered. He fought poor offensive line protection all season, causing a career-high 54 sacks, putting him just behind Geno Smith and Cam Ward with 55. He had weapons. He had toughness. What he didn't have was an explosive scheme. And yet, Herbert kept the Chargers alive every single week. He finished the year QB8 with 26 passing touchdowns, 9th in total passing yards with 3,727, 232.9 yards per game. He led all quarterbacks this season with 498 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He ended with 301.9 fantasy points, putting him as QB10, and averaged 18.9 fantasy points per game. His legs elevated the ceiling. His poise kept the Chargers competitive. His production came in spite of the chaos, not because of the structure around him. Herbert's 66.4 completion percentage, 24th amongst quarterbacks, is now a top priority for new offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel, whose system is built to get the ball out quicker, cleaner, and with far more rhythm. On offense, the shift begins, because now, with McDaniel stepping into that offensive seat, he's a coach with a completely different DNA. Where Roman wanted brute force, McDaniel brings creativity, spacing, motion, and rhythm. Where Roman leaned on physicality, McDaniel leans on precision and misdirection. He's the kind of offensive mind who can take a young backfield, a developing line, and a quarterback searching for consistency and give them structure, timing, and identity. In Miami, McDaniel used pre-snap motion on nearly 70% of offensive plays, one of the highest rates in the league, compared to the Chargers sitting closer to 50%. That motion creates leverage, spacing, and confusion, and when you pair it with more play action, you unlock something the Chargers desperately need: more yards after catch, more rhythm, and more fantasy production. In 2022, McDaniel turned Miami into a top 10 offense in yards per game, and in 2023, he led the entire NFL in total offense and passing offense, while finishing second in scoring at 29 points per game. McDaniel's job isn't just to call plays, it's to revitalize an offense that lost its identity, protect its franchise quarterback, and turn flashes into flow. If he hits, this becomes one of the most efficient, modernized attacks Herbert has ever played in. The Chargers' receiving room in 2025 wasn't about one star carrying the load. It was a collection of roles, flashes, and evolving identities. Each player brought something different. Together, they formed a unit that kept Herbert afloat even when the offense stalled. Quentin Johnston quietly carved out a meaningful role, posting a 34.8% end zone market share, finishing as wide receiver 34 with 172.2 fantasy points and 735 yards. It's almost a carbon copy of his 2024 line, where he finished wide receiver 39, 174.7 points, and 711 yards, showing he's consistent but still streaky. He flashed real upside as a vertical playmaker. He forced secondaries to take him serious, but the inconsistency remains the story. The talent is there. Overall reliability is still MIA. Lad McConkey took a step back statistically, finishing wide receiver 37 with 180.9 points after a massive rookie season where he posted 241.5 points and 1,155 yards as a top 10 fantasy receiver. This year, he settled into wide receiver 27 territory with just 789 yards, still showing the route running polish and separation skills that make him a long-term building block. The ceiling is still real. The volume just shifted around him. Keenan Allen returned to Los Angeles and slotted right into the middle of the Chargers' production curve, finishing wide receiver 30 with 182.7 fantasy points, catching 81 passes for 777 yards. He led the receiving room with 20.7% target share and a 68.6% catch rate, proving he can still be Herbert's chain mover and security blanket even as the offense evolves around younger pieces. Trey Harris is the kind of dynasty stash that makes managers lean forward. A high-risk, high-reward eye-catcher with the tools to eventually lock down the outside role in Los Angeles. His profile fits exactly what the Chargers need: strong at the catch point and dangerous on contested catches. A real year 2 breakout candidate in McDaniel's system. His rookie year was quiet, no way around it. Just a 3.8% target share, 69.4% fantasy points, 324 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. But that's typical for a developmental outside receiver, especially in a crowded room. What matters is the projection. Harris has the frame, the ball skills, and the downfield ability to grow into a legitimate boundary option. And in an offense transitioning to Mike McDaniel's motion-heavy, yak-friendly system, the door is open for a second-year leap if he can earn Herbert's trust. He's not safe, he's not polished, but he's the kind of dynasty swing that can pay off big if the traits translate. Oronde Gadsden delivered a strong debut season, finishing as tight end 15 with 132.4 fantasy points. While functioning far more like a big slot receiver than a traditional tight end, his versatility immediately showed up in the numbers. 664 receiving yards and a 13.4% target share on the year. The real breakout window came mid-season. From weeks 6 through 11, Gadsden ranked tight end 12, commanding an impressive 18% target share, giving the Chargers a legitimate fantasy impact player at tight end, and even a viable flex option in deeper formats. Gadsden's emergence also reshapes the target ecosystem. His presence gives Herbert a matchup-proof option in the middle of the field. It may siphon some short to intermediate targets away from McConkey, but in the big picture, Gadsden adds versatility and helps unlock the spacing this offense desperately needs. He's not just a tight end, he's a structural piece. The Chargers' run game in 2025 was a rotation of flashes, with moments of hope that never fully became reality. 3 backs, 3 stories. Each one showed something different, something promising, something incomplete. And together, they formed a backfield that kept the Chargers competitive, but never quite took over games the way Greg Roman had envisioned. But with Mike McDaniel stepping in, this room suddenly feels like it has a future. Let's break it down. Omarion Hampton runs like he's trying to crack the planet in half. Every time this dude touched the ball, he wasn't just hitting holes, he was creating them. Defenders weren't tackling him, they were surviving him. From a fantasy standpoint, Hampton was the classic limited touches, maximum effort. Hampton had 545 scrimmage yards in only 9 games due to a fractured ankle in the Week 5 loss to the Commanders. He went on injured reserve for the next 8 weeks. His 165-yard performance in Week 4 against the Giants was a standout game of his season, which included a 54-yard touchdown. In fantasy, Hampton finished the season as RB18 with 60.6 rushing yards per game and just 124 attempts. He finished with 4 rushing touchdowns, the same as Jets running back Breece Hall, and 1 shy of the Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker. Again, not bad for just 9 games. He finished at RB36 with 192 receiving yards on 32 attempts, 1 touchdown, and a 94% catch rate. He was RB35 with 135.7 fantasy points on the season, averaging 15.1 points per game. As a rookie, he was being drafted in the 14 to 23 range, around players like James Cook, fellow rookie Travion Henderson, and Kenneth Walker. He's not just a stash, he's a future RB1 energy source waiting for the workload to catch up. Dynasty managers, you already know. Pre-draft managers, circle the name. I don't know what to tell you about Najee Harris. We didn't know what to expect with the addition of Najee Harris coming over from Pittsburgh. And frankly, didn't get to find out. Harris only made it 3 games before suffering a season-ending torn Achilles. Before the season started, it was all about the July 4th incident, the eye injury, that left fantasy managers leery where to even take him in the draft. He was a letdown for sure, finishing with just 11.6 fantasy points on 61 touches, well below round 9 draft capital. Kimani Vidal wasn't just a sleeper, he was a sleeper who woke up wanting to prove his worth. He entered the season buried in a rotation, unsure where he fit. When Hampton went down, Vidal stepped in and delivered. 2 19-point weeks, weeks 6 and 13, an 18-point week in week 8 against a tough Minnesota defense, and a 16-point week in week 10 against another tough Steelers defense. He finished RB27 with 49.5 yards per game, RB42 with 117.9 fantasy points. He had 643 total yards with 4 touchdowns, only averaging 9.1 fantasy points per game. His compact frame, explosive burst, and elite contact balance, he ran like a defender owed him money. Not bad for a guy who started the year as an afterthought. This was one of those waiver wire pickups your league mates still complain about, the one they wish they grabbed a week earlier, the one that some weeks flipped the matchup. So here's the bottom line for you fantasy owners. Hampton is the future breakout. Najee Harris, wait and see. Vidal is worth a bench spot. Meanwhile, on defense, the Chargers face a different kind of transition because Jesse Minter, the defensive architect who built a top 10 scoring defense, maximized Derwin James, and unleashed Tui Tuipuelotu, is gone. He earned his shot and took the head coaching job with the AFC rival Baltimore Ravens. Now the Chargers turn to Chris O'Leary. O'Leary steps in with a reputation for detail, development, and structural discipline. He inherits a defense with stars, with youth, with upside, and a foundation Mentor already poured. His job isn't to rebuild, it's to elevate, to take what worked and sharpen it. Chargers finished as the 14th ranked defense in defensive scoring with 111 total fantasy points. The defense had an elite showing in week 10 against Rodgers and the Steelers, and again showed up against those pesky Chiefs, sacking Mahomes 5 times with 2 takeaways. This defense didn't bend, it hunted. It kept the Chargers alive when the offense couldn't. It played a major part and was clutch last season. The Chargers are widely expected to focus on the offensive line with their first pick, specifically at guard or center, reinforcing the commitment to protect Justin Herbert and stabilizing the run game. Bolstering the edge rush, adding defensive tackle depth will also be a prime focus. With 5 total picks in this year's draft, the Chargers had the flexibility to address the trenches early while still giving Herbert another weapon if the value aligns. The 2025 Chargers were a team of surges and stalls, a team that fought, battled, stayed competitive, but never unlocked its full potential. With the right draft additions, the Chargers can transform from dangerous on paper to dangerous in reality. Where do you think the Chargers take the next step? Where will they go in the upcoming draft? Be sure to comment below.